Welcome back to the Weekend Wrap. That's our Monday edition of our weekend shows. And Ari, this weekend you and Harry Jones and Jan de Koning, all teamed up. And I was the ultimate arbiter. I loved it, the power of the position. And we picked our own Springbok side. Just have you had any second thoughts since then?
Yeah, interesting process. I had second thoughts about what I put on for my clothes this morning. All of a sudden, I didn't realize that I'm all black this morning. For Friday, I'll go green. For sure. But yes, it's exciting to have the All Blacks here. Exciting. It's a test week. It's something special. And now everybody's kind of waiting how the teams will line up. So we've got a bit of an idea from looking back and what happened and what Rassie prefers that we know. And the All Blacks, we have an idea as well, I think. But yeah, it's an interesting team. It was a great process to talk about the team and what can happen. I think the interesting thing for me was envy around the locks and the reserves maybe, and trying to figure out how it will look late in the game. And Harry Jones made a interesting and a good point, I think, and he said that he understands that Rassie always looks first and he wants to look at what is the team that he ends with on the field, if all goes well, if there's not forced injuries, of course, that maybe plays into it a little bit. But so that is important. So it's not just about the 15 running on, it's about the 23. So the bench, we know about the bomb squad and all those titles that was given. But lately, he mostly did go for 5-3, with his part of the three being a hybrid with Andre Esterhuizen. So about his last 5 big games, 4 of the 5 times Andre was that player. So interesting to see. But you've got the team up there. So we don't know if that is going to be the team. That's a team that we kind of discussed and got to, but still a strong team. A team that can play and a team that can also face what's coming their way.
I think the most important thing here is to look at the bench, like you just said. And we had Jan-Hendrik Wessels, Boan Venter and Zachary Porten in the front row. Then we had Cobus Wiese, Marco van Staden as loose trio / lock replacements. And then we had Andre, obviously the hybrid, Cobus Reinach and Sasha Feinberg and Komazulu. I think the two locks, Marco and lock / loose trio, Marco and Cobus Wiese, the most questions around them, because the question is, where are they going to end up? If Paul de Villiers stays on, is Marco going to go to 8? He did go to 8 at, I think, against Wales, if I'm not mistaken, or Scotland, one of the two. I can't remember exactly. What's going to happen to 7? But interestingly enough, Harry afterwards said to me, he's quite confident that you will see Cobus Wiese and Ben Jason Dixon on the bench. That puts a completely different spin on things. Do you think, if it's Paul de Villiers, which I suspect it might be, we said that Sia is probably not going to be able to play. Do you suspect, what do you think of that combination? Does that throw a bit of a spanner in your works?
Yes, I think we expect that Sia's not going to play with Paul starting, and that is a bit of a spanner in the works. I'll say why I say that is it's not all that you can go by, but the 2 previous games against the All Blacks in New Zealand, in Auckland, he had in that kind of reserve positions, he had Loot and Kwagga. And then for the Wellington test, he had RG Snyman and Kwagga. So many times, most of the times when Rassie Erasmus played the All Blacks and many of those big games like England and Ireland, etc., and France, he went for a big, tall, imposing reserve lock, either Loot or RG, and then also Kwagga that offered, he would always try to add Kwagga on his bench. So that's what I thought, where I had Marco van Staden in my thoughts with a Loot and maybe a Wiese as well. That's your big 4. Wiese might get the nod because of playing more and more rugby fit, and Loot just coming back, and not to have Eben and Loot that just came back in the 23. Rather have one of the 2 that didn't play that much. So that's for me interesting. I heard what you say about Harry, what Harry said. That will mix it up a little bit if it's Ben Jason Dixon and Wiese, both of them. All I can think then is late in the game that you will find that both locks will be off the field. You will then probably find that Eben and Nortje is off the field, and you'll probably have a situation where you have Wiese and Pieter-Steph du Toit as the locks and Ben Jason Dixon as the flank then. And then possibly Esterhuizen, if he needs to come up for the in front, then it will the forwards, it would be replacing Wiese probably. I think he will bank on Paul de Villiers playing 80 minutes. But so it's interesting what the combinations will be. But if you go by what he's done in the past, it will be 5-3 with Esterhuizen and then a bigger lock and a fetcher. But he might change it up a bit. Rassie, it might be totally different. But I think Visa might be the one that's closest to being on the bench than Lut.
Yeah, we have to qualify which Visa we're talking about. Both Boetie's playing there, so I suppose you're referring to Kobus Visa, yeah.
Kobus Visa, the lock, the bigger brother. So he will physically, not the oldest one.
The taller brother. I'm not so sure he's necessarily bigger. Yeah.
Yes, and so as the lock. But yes, Harry had an interesting few angles and thoughts on that. But going by what he did in the past, I think what we must also take into consideration is what the All Blacks have been doing, MV. So if you look at their team, their last team that played against Ireland, and we've seen them now in action for 3 games. 2 players that really caught the eye for me was Anton Segner, the one flank, and also Peter Lakai. And if you look at that team, they were on the bench. So it was Anton Segner was the one replacement forward. The other one, Peter Lakai, that's actually 8th man as well, and a flank. They didn't have an extra lock there, and the reason for that was because they had Tupou Vai playing him on the flank, which is also a lock. So it's like a Pieter-Steph du Toit, so they can move him to the lock if need be. So it would probably be the same kind of team that comes out. But why I mentioned this is that Rassie might be looking at how good Anton Segner played against the Bulls, and how good Anton Segner is on the ball, on the loose ball. So that might push him more to a Van Staden argument or a Deon Fourie argument on the bench to say, but I want 80 minutes of pressure on that ball for those fetchers and to make sure that Anton Segner do not get his way. So that might be the thinking. So I think Rassie will also look at the way that the All Blacks played.
Yeah, it's interesting that I think Rennie said some players put up their hands, and he specifically mentioned those 2, Segner and Lakai. I mean, Lakai caught my attention as well, but Segner is like a little human dynamo over there. And, Harry compared him to Jos van der Fleer kind of player from Ireland. What stood out for you?
Yes, and he's taller, he's bigger, he's quite big actually. So he's not that typical 1.8 meters or the shorter fetchers that we got to know in World Rugby. But he's more versatile. So I think that's more the Van der Fleer, that, like you say. Everybody needs to be kind of playing to the ball a little bit more as well. But you've got Luke Jacobson, that's the official number 7. For them, it's their fetcher, their Richie McCaw in that 7 jersey. So Luke Jacobson a bit bigger. He might start for that physical onslaught of the Springboks in the beginning in the first half, and get Anton Segner on. I think they will go similar to what they did against Ireland, like I just mentioned, to have Tupou Vai on the flank, and then 2 loose forwards on in Segner and Lakai. So that will be strange if the Springboks then go with Visa and Ben Jason Dixon, then you kind of have 2 flanks matching. You've got a flank in Jason Dixon, but a lock in a flank. So it's comparable, but I think he will probably consider to have Marco Verstappen or Fourie in the mix as well. Yeah. And also Ellis Park is a faster field. It's a harder field and more open play, and you need players to kind of challenge the loose ball there.
So, the interesting thing is last night when we got our weekly email from the Springbok press office, the team announcement is only going to be on Thursday. Now, that's a bit of a break off tradition. I spoke about it on lunch break as well. And Rassie's having a press conference at 11:45, and they're recording that before then. So we don't know what the reason he's probably going to tell us. But just, from your point of view, Rassie made a big point of why he's announcing teams earlier last week on his own podcast. He said he doesn't like the media speculation. He wants to take the pressure off the players and the likes. Why now? Why would he delay the team announcement for this day specifically, do you think?
I think it's because it's so tricky to have your reserves in place, which is a big component of your 23, obviously. I think mostly in his starting 15, we can name it now, and we'll be probably very close to 100% correct in the starting 15. That's quite obvious. I think it gets interesting, and then often mostly the players that's from number 16 to number 23 kind of give you a little bit of an insight to what kind of game you want to play. If he goes for the big boys like the Wiese and the Ben Jason Dixon versus to have a Fourie or a Van Staden in there, it kind of, you get an idea what his thinking is, and they can also select their team kind of to battle that a little bit. So I think it's also just good to keep them guessing. They've been guessing now for many weeks anyway. So just keep them guessing up till Thursday. And it was still for me always a bit of a surprise if you do the announcement on the Tuesday, because the obvious thing is you give the other team so much more to analyze the players that were selected a little bit more, and to also to understand and try and figure out the possible game plan. So you just give them more time. But I think game like this, I agree with him. Just do it as late as possible. Give them as little time as possible to zoom in on players, because there's going to be a few options that they have, and it's always interesting to see what he's going to do. But what we do know from Rassie is that he's creative. He will think out of the box, but also I don't think he will take chances. He will not play too many players out of position. He will take the settled players, the players with good test match experience. And the one bad thing is that we kind of taking it or discussing that both Ox and Che and Siya Kolisi both might be not in the mix because of injury. It could be that things change and they both kind of make a comeback and they in the team to start. But it seems like the news that we get from people that's close to the team is that they might not be in consideration for the first test.
Yeah, that is what I'm thinking about is you talk about Rassie being clever and everything else. If you were Dave Rennie and you know that Rassie used to announce team quite early, I wonder if he banked on a team being announced early. And now it's not happening. Now I have to make my own selection. That's good. It's a bit of another curveball. I actually quite like it. I like the thinking behind it. And I mean, this is just not going to be a play out for the rest of the week. I'd love to hear what Rassie's got to say, so we'll hear what he says later. So please don't tell us this hasn't aged well, because we don't know. We're just speculating why Rassie isn't announcing the team as early as he did. So just going back to that game against the Bulls, you mentioned it briefly before. What of the All Blacks stood out for you? What was successful there and what wasn't? And I want to ask you the question specifically the way they're playing and the effect it's having on the team, because we saw now the fourth All Black is on the way home now. And the first test hasn't even been played yet. Is that a way of playing, extracting a toll maybe on them, imposing a toll, whatever the right word is?
Yes, NBA, it is Ollie Norris, one of the reserve props that's going home. It's not going to affect them probably in their starting 23. It was the last few games, it was Rennie that selected Xavier Namia. He was a loose head reserve, and then also Fletcher Newell. So those are the two that will probably be in the mix for Saturday as well. And I think Namia also played against the Bulls. What I saw on Saturday was obviously they could handle the scrum pressure, or they put some scrum pressure on the Bulls as well. So that was a plus for them. And the moment they get that and they get momentum up front and they get front foot ball, it's difficult to stop them. And you could see how dangerous they play when they get second and third phase ball with the space they create and the skills. So that is going to be the test. So that was impressive. And they almost look like the defense is waiting for you the way they play sometimes, because you don't know. They have many players coming at the back, around the back in the back line. So I think they handled all the challenges that was talked about quite well. In the second half, they didn't as much when Eldrick Lowe and Grobler came on, and it's as if those two players, just those two in the pack, immediately made a difference. So you could also see it in the score. I think it was 26-19 the second half. So it was a bit of a different game also in the second half then. So that would be interesting. What I did hear Dave Rennie say in his media after the game was he kind of looked over to Cody Taylor as well, and he said they respect it's going to be 3, 4, 5-fold more challenging on Saturday. Just meaning the intensity, the ruck speed, etc. So that's in their mind. They know that they're going to get lots of pressure in all the components that we talk about. So before the tour, we kind of wondered how it will be in the scrums, how it will be in defensive pressure and line speed from the South African teams. So they saw some of it in stages, but I think for the Springboks, they will get more of that consistently. So I think it's for them mission accomplished. They did well in the first half. 24-0 was impressive. They maybe took their foot off the pedal a little bit, they might argue. But still, it was a good good result for them. I thought it was going to be a bit more challenging for them physically up front, but they did handle that well. So we must remember they're a good team, and I think I saw some of the commentary as well that I agree with, and said maybe we kind of forgot how good these All Blacks actually can play, because we don't see their franchise teams. We see them in tests, and some of the tests that didn't do so well, they had like 4 coaches in 5 years, so they were unsettled and not a settled team always. But now you see, one thing that you must really compliment them is that they're very skillful, and it's not just the back line, it's 1 to 23. So they have ability to catch the ball and pass and get players in space. They understand space, and so yeah, good team. It's going to be an excellent test on Saturday. I just hope that the Springboks also get the opportunities to also play a bit more, because we kind of forgot about Tony Ball. Remember, we talked about Tony Ball the whole time, about Tony Brown, and that was brought into the game a bit more. And I don't want it only to be when there's a contestable kick and it comes our way, the Springboks way, and then you play. And then I think from first phase rugby, we must also be more brave at certain positions. From a good line-out position, a good scrum in the middle, where the fullback and the wing is a little bit deeper, also play them. And I think we can. We've got the players to do that. We've got real good runners, no matter who's at 10, if it's Lebok and if it's Sasha, or even if it's Pollard. Damien Willemse can do that. Colby, we know we've got good runners, so we must play them as well. But it's going to be an arm wrestle. I think we're going to try and take them into dark places, like we've did before.
Yeah.
Just take them, keep them in the set pieces and take them to dark places.
No, of course they are. And I mean, I think you and I spoke about it on Friday. We thought the Bulls might give them a good run for their money, and they didn't really. And now we're being accused of making excuses and everything else. We're not. The Bulls are in the preseason. They're not fit. And I think what you mentioned about Louw and Grobler, they're fit. They haven't stopped practicing or exercising or training or anything after the URC. They've been in the Springbok camp since the end of the URC season. So they're fit. They're match fit. They played against Argentina just the other day. And I think that's what maybe made the difference, that step up. You talk about physicality, and Johan Ackerman also specifically referred to it, the fact that you could see that his players haven't made any contact because they didn't do any contact practice sessions, training sessions, because they were afraid of injuries. And that's what he could specifically see. And I think that's maybe why the Bulls challenge fell a bit short. I'm not making excuses. We're not denying how well the All Blacks played and how good a team they actually are. I'm just saying the Bulls may be a little undercooked. And well, not maybe, they're definitely undercooked. I would love to have seen this game, maybe, Johan also said it, maybe 2 weeks later, once they're more into the swing of things, a little bit more fitter, built up a little more, add a bit more contact sessions, but obviously then it wouldn't have worked out for the tests and everything else. But yeah, so anyway, well done to the All Blacks. I'm looking forward to this. I can't wait anymore. Just briefly, we'll hear what Rasie's got to say now, but I mean, we just have to touch on the Currie Cup, the results for the past week. Can you just run us through as quickly, please?
Yeah, it is again there's 2 home wins and 2 away wins, and it was Boland was impressive beating the Lions. So I think that was impressive, when difficult to win away, and then the Cheetahs winning away at Loftus Versfeld. So that was a good win. Home win, easy home win for the Pumas against the Stormers, and then also Greek was winning at home. So it's this coming weekend is going to be interesting, because it's the 4 test unions playing each other and the 4, let's say, not test unions playing each other. So that's going to be quite a big arm wrestle. And it's Boland that needs to go to. I think they go to Free State. They must play there, and then it's the Pumas and the Griquas that play. And there's a big game on Friday. It's the Stormers playing the Bulls in Pretoria. And then it's the Sharks and the Lions also playing in Durban. So interesting, but at the moment it's the 4 test unions that's number 5, 6, 7, 8 on that list. So they're finding it hard to play. But you can see the settled teams and the settled coaching and the older Harde they coming through. So Currie Cup is interesting, but an important game. I think the important game for me would be the Free State, the Cheetahs playing the Boland, because it's so important to get number 1 position. You want a home semi and you want a home final to win this tournament. And I think the Cheetahs will be very, very keen to win that game against Boland, which now all of a sudden is a difficult one to win, because if the Boland can beat the Lions away, they just prove that they're a good team. So that will be interesting for me on the weekend.
Yes, but that score at Loftus, 52-62. And the Bulls scored 52 points and they conceded 62. I mean, that's 100 and whatever points. What happened there? Do you have any idea?
Yeah, it's the defensive manuals thrown out of the window in that one, I
Optional.
think, and then it's
Defense
yeah.
optional. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's and the defensive coach will probably say that they admire the skills of the other team, but yeah, you get games when it just opens up and it gets easier to score, and then it's also maybe the one maybe compliment for both teams is you get a game where both teams want to play. And if both teams want to play, you have turnovers and you have space, and you don't kick it out always, etc., etc. Then you get those scores. But they were good tries, good skills, and probably the best ticket ever to buy for a rugby game was the one on Sunday there to watch that game. So you saw lots of action.
Yes.
So that was good entertainment. That was definitely that.
Listen, I want to end up here, you being a staunch Stormers supporter, a former, you grew up in Bulls country, but you've been a Stormers supporter your whole life, as far as I know, and then I'm a Bulls supporter. What did you think of that new jersey of the Bulls?
Yeah, I like it when it's a bit more light blue, but I understand it's the darker. It's a nice jersey. I like it. I lean more towards the traditional to the light blue. I think some of the jerseys I remember, maybe it's from the old days when sometimes you see an old photo of 1980 and 85 and the team and that ligblauw. That ligblauw tray. There's still something in it for me, but I like the design. Can be proud of that. So, but only comment for me is I expected it a little bit more leaning to the light blue, but the dark blue is still. I think there were a few seasons where the jersey was a more darker. But it's not. I think it's a nice jersey. So difficult for me to kind of try and, from a Stormers perspective, say how nice it is. But from a Stormers perspective. I always see the challenge bigger when you play a team from Pretoria in light blue. Then it's really ligblauwers.
Yeah, this jersey reminds me of the 2007 Super Rugby jersey. That's still my favorite jersey, with the darker blue and the likes. I like that. Edgar told me that the last year's jersey, the light blue one with the dark stripe on it, which wasn't one of my favorites. He said it was the best-selling Bulls jersey ever. Most popular jersey ever. Interesting, man. I thought that's what an interesting one. And just as an aside, that logo of the design, of that jersey it's called All Roads Lead to Loftus. It's actually a map, of Loftus, from your GPS. So looking forward to getting one of those for myself.
Okay.
Nudge,
quite creative. That's nice. Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that's it. Okay. Yeah, it's quite creative. That's nice. Yeah.
Yeah. So
did they Google Cape Town as well, or that one that will be?
No. Only all roads lead to Loftus, not to DHL Stadium. Thank you. Maybe they adjust it for every game. Yeah. Like Ari said, if you get lost after the game, you just look at your friend's shirt and you'll find your way home. So there we go. Listen, I have to let you go. I've got some other pressing commitments. Sorry for that. And we'll talk again soon. Thank you for this, Ari, making time for me. I appreciate it.
That's great. We talk on Friday. Bye-bye.
Okay, cool.